I found these tables at a thrift store and I had my kids with me, so I didn't have a lot of space, but I told the guy, you know what, I'm going to make them fit. So this one got seatbelted in the front seat with me. And here they are. I was really excited that I got this matching set. And once I started cleaning it, I realized this is not a matching set. These tables may be matched, although I have my questions because they were kind of a different color. You can see here, one's a little more red, and the drawers weren't exactly the same size. So, not sure about that. I've seen people ask why clean if you're just going to sand, and I am going to sand after this, but I found it preserves my sandpaper a lot. It doesn't get gummed up by all the dirt and the grime. So it is really important to wash your furniture first. It's a pretty simple, basic first step. If you're lazy like me, sometimes you don't want to, but it really is worth it in the end. That coffee table was completely not a match. There was no solid wood on it. It was not great quality, but thankfully I decided to use that in my own living room, and it's held up great with small kids. So I'd say it's a win still. So I decided to do just these two tables together as a set. One was in pretty good condition, but this one here had some water damage and the veneer was kind of pulling up. So I was going to try an experiment that I've seen lots of people do, which is to take a blade and cut where the veneer is picking up, and then to take a towel and an iron. Basically, you're trying to melt, I think, the glue and put pressure on it to get the veneer to stay down. I'm not sure how great this actually worked, but I thought I would give it a try on this piece as it was pretty extensively damaged. But again, I think because it was water damage, I just needed to sand it. And so that is what I did, and sand it I did. I tried to get really good into that one big groove, and I knew I was going to come back later and fill it. So it was okay if I made it a little bit lower than the rest. I knew that my plan for these two tables was to paint all of the surfaces, so all I needed to do was to scuff sand. And my goal for these was to make them two really pretty modern farmhouse tables. And that's what I like to achieve with the Rust-Oleum chalk paint in linen white. Sometimes I distress, and this one I thought, I don't know, we'll see how it looks if I leave it clean and white or I distress it. But first, before I get to the painting, I had to fill a lot of little gouges on the legs and on the top. I used wood filler for the legs. I just apply it with my finger. I know some people use tools for it. I just found it's just easier to apply with my finger. And I had lots of them to fill. These tables have had a lot of love. Like I said, one of them was more heavily used than the other, obviously. And one thing that I've really enjoyed using and have added to my everyday supplies is this foam pad that sticks onto my sander and can really help with those curved areas. You don't flatten out a rounded surface. So it really does conform to these really curvy edges. These girls are curvy. They got curves. So we got to be gentle with those. And I knew that the top needed to be more durable, so I did decide to use the very, very last of my Bondo wood filler. And I love this stuff. I do not love that it dries faster than I can mix it, basically. So I just use the tiniest bit at a time, because when I've used it a lot, I've wasted a lot. So my tip is use way less than you think you need, and you can always make more. So I'm finally ready to slap on some of that linen white paint. And unfortunately, we've had a lot of rainy days here. I shouldn't say unfortunately, because we're in the Midwest here and we often have droughts in the summer. So I'm thankful for the rain, but oh my word, the summer of 2025 has had more rainy days than I can remember any summer in my whole life, basically. So we'll see what the rest of the summer holds for us. But here we are putting that paint on and doing it inside because it's sure rainy out there. But you know what? Paint dries better when it's not 900 degrees. So I guess I should be thankful because normally it's very hot here in the summer and humid, and it's not great for paint drying. So I want to take a second here and say you're maybe sick of seeing videos of people doing the farmhouse style. And while I understand, I also think that you have to consider your area, because if you flip furniture to sell, like I do, then you have to really consider what people in your area like to buy. And I've had no problem selling farmhouse style furniture. In fact, that has been probably one of my quickest ways to sell furniture, is to do the farmhouse look on it. And that's usually typically a white base or black base with a wood top. And people really like it still. I think it looks great, and lots of people already have that aesthetic in their home, and they're not changing with the trends. So don't poo-poo on the farmhouse look. Unfortunately, with this white paint, I did have a little bit of bleed through on the base. And you can't tell super well, but it is kind of coming through a little bit brown on the legs here. And the easiest solution, I will tell you, is to get some spray shellac. It's clear. The Zinsser brand is great. It's pricey, but you really don't need a lot. You just need one coat probably. And I won't even use it all for this one project. So I'm going to spray some of that shellac on here. And because it's clear, I'm just going to spray between my first coat and my next coat. And I'm hoping to just get by with 2 coats of paint. But if I need 3, it'll be fine. And I will be able to have confidence that the paint's not going to come through. So I think I have definitely deserved a iced tea break before we move on to painting the tops in this lovely beige color. I can't tell you what color it is because I kind of mixed it up myself, and sorry, can't help you. But what I will tell you is that you should paint with your heart, you know. Anyway, this is another technique that I just started using that people are sharing online. And it's to paint with the brush first and then roll the paint with a roller. So the big problem whenever I have ever used a roller is getting a good amount of paint on the roller and then getting it evenly applied onto the furniture. And so you kind of get that even application with the paintbrush, and then you can smooth the surface so you don't have the streaks from the brush by just rolling it after you paint it on. So here I'm doing it again. I'm just holding that roller in my hand as I paint on the paint. And then to get rid of the brush strokes, I'm going to roll the paint. And you have to do this quickly. Like I said, it's 90 plus degrees here in July in the Midwest. So do it really quick because the paint is drying fast. And you want to just rolling all that paint. So next step is let it dry, and then using a little bit darker of a brown, I'm going to come in and do, again, little strokes at a time. I'm going to put a faux wood grain on here. And so I do a small amount at a time, and then I'm going to use the graining tool to put the wood grain design on here. And I'm just going to tell you, if it looks easy, it is, because it is easy. I promise you, if I can do this, you can definitely do this. Anyone can do this. It's super, super easy. You might be a perfectionist and sometimes you want to go over it 16 times, but you just have to kind of let it be. Sometimes I do go over it multiple times, as is shown here. But it is kind of cool. You can manufacture a wood grain and it looks pretty. I mean, pretty not bad, I will say, especially for something like this where the tabletop could not be just stained to have the wood showing. So this is a
I like
really
to mention
good
that you don't have to buy the
opportunity to
fancy
use this
kits
technique,
for these
I think. Faux wood tools, kits, or whatever. You can just get the cheap one at the hardware store. So while I was in the middle of this project, I just wanted to share this video of the sky, and to remind you to always look for the silver lining. This is the very bottom of the barrel, if you will, of this stain that I loved. It's a Poly Plus stain, and I really love it, but I am not going to make it through this project with just this little dab that's left. If you ever wonder why not to leave your gloves outside and what the power of the sun will do, here you go. I have these great kitchen gloves that are wonderful for applying stain, and I left them outside. So, new gloves, applying a new stain too. This one I mixed up myself with some polyurethane and wood stain that I had that was really similar to this one that I like. So, it was good to know I could do that. And I also learned that when you read the back of the packaging, polyurethane, you find out that the rags that you use to apply it could spontaneously combust. So that's exciting. Thankfully, I learned it from reading the back of the can instead of by my house catching on fire. That was nice. So make sure to dispose of your rags and your gloves carefully. Now, I always love it when I can reuse the hardware that's on the furniture. And this one, all it needed was just to be scrubbed clean, and then I'm going to spray paint it in my preferred color, which is this Rust-Oleum metallic black, and it just looks really sleek, and it really matches any kind of finish that I'm generally working on, and it just adds a little bit of sparkle to the project. You know, people always say that it's important to look at the world from different perspectives. So here's the perspective of what it's like to see the world from my back pocket. Yes, that's right. I had my camera running for a solid, that footage goes on for about 15 minutes. So you're welcome for not showing the whole clip. So after letting everything dry and top coating the bottom, we're finally finished, and I am celebrating with this delicious ice cream cone that is melting faster than I can eat it. Yay, summer. And the next step is what I think is probably one of my best ways to sell furniture fast online on Facebook Marketplace, which is to stage the furniture as best I can. And what I like to do is to set up outside in front of my garage. I know it's a garage background, it's fine. People can use their imaginations just fine. But I do like to put down this nice rug that I have, and I vacuum it so my neighbors all think I'm vacuuming my driveway. That's fun. If you think about it, when people are scrolling on Facebook Marketplace looking for furniture, they are going to have a first impression of one tiny little photo. So that first photo in your listing needs to be a really good one that showcases the furniture, but also just looks really, really beautiful. And that's why I use just a few placed decorative items. And one of my go-tos is old books. And a tip that I like to share also is, especially if you have something that's white or off-white, to use some kind of a white item that the person looking at the picture can actually tell, okay, this is a standard for the photo. This is what looks white. So I like to use the milk glass, or like this little plant has a container that's white. That way, if your furniture isn't pure white, it will look obviously contrasting to the white that's on the top. So next is to take really, really good pictures, including measurement pictures if possible, but for sure, leave the dimensions in the listing. So just to remind you what these looked like before and how they turned out. And these two actually sold in, I think, less than 24 hours on Facebook Marketplace, and I was really pleased with the project.